button.
No, I'm not hitting the button.
Yeah,
Do
the
we need to turn the
microphone's
mics
on.
on? There was a power button.
There it is.
Okay, I just heard the click.
Then we'll call the meeting to order. We gotta do roll call?
Yes, please.
John Egbert, here.
Colleen Oquist?
Ron Davis.
Rick Wallner.
And Pam Dennehy, Director of Tourism.
I'd like to welcome everybody today. Do we have any citizen participation at this time? No. Approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to look over the minutes as presented?
And Tracy's not gonna be able to make it today, she just texted.
I move that we accept the minutes as presented.
Second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Financials.
I'm sorry, was that Colleen and then
Ron.
Ron? Okay, thank you. So I still had a couple questions about these, but I was out of town and didn't get a chance to email Elisa because it seems like on the lodging tax statistics, we're a couple months behind on the heads and beds. So I just want to, I'll confirm that with her. Unless that assumes that the revenue that was, it's the same as what was collected. But if it does, then I'll make sure that it gets brought down so that that we're still, because right now it's showing only 24,000 versus the 52. So still just trying to figure out how to reconcile those numbers. So. And unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to talk to her because I don't have the answer to that, but I will follow up via email and see, and then share that with you via email.
It almost looks like, though, that she hasn't put March and
Yeah.
April down on that beds and heads section.
Right, that's what I'm
So-
saying. So I'm not sure if she just didn't put it down or if it's the actual, it's the same. But either way, if it's the same, it needs to be brought down so that those numbers are reflected in there.
Right.
So just, yeah, clarifying that I think will be helpful, because I am not sure the answer to that. While you're looking at that, I forgot my notebook with one note, but I'm gonna go grab real quick and I will be right back to the meeting room.
Even at that, I mean, and I think it's still good to know to get the heads and beds figure, but the March figure looking back from, and I'm sure it might have some catch-ups in it, but when you look back over that, what, clear back to 2016, that's the highest all the way back.
Right.
So, except for last year, and I think that 18 was probably a catch-up thing, because remember we had the 49,000 January too, so. I still think we need to look at that overall picture from 8 or 10 years back, and it looks really good. And it's done a lot for the community, this lodging tax, so. Pat ourselves on the back and keep up the good work and keep collecting sales tax. It helps. With that, I move we approve the financials.
I'd second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Davis
Pam?
and Walner, was that right? Okay, I'm just gonna get this one note. Okay. All right, so just a couple updates I wanted to give everyone. We have approved the video for the Tourism Recovery Grant. And as a reminder, that is a 2-year marketing campaign you would never guess to promote tourism. And it's not just tarantula tourism, but all tourism. The video was approved after we decided to add, we didn't feel like we had enough arts in there, so we added a wonderful picture of Les Mis from Pick a Wire Players, and got that, made a couple changes to how some of the things were tagged. I think something wasn't tagged, and we got it all up to date. So now that that was approved, that is going to be added to the landing page. Visit lahunch.net/you would never guess, and that the point of that landing page is they're going to be doing digital ads with a lot of wonderful branding and content based on the script that we had in the video about the wonder of La Junta and looking up and looking down and all of that. So all of those ads are based very much in the script that we approved. Those ads are going to be running digitally, VistaWorks, which is formerly Destination IQ. So if I go back and forth between Destination IQ and VistaWorks, just know that it's the same company, they just rebranded their name. So the call to action on these ads that are going to be appearing via Facebook, Google, all the different things will go to the landing page, and then we're going to be able to get reports on visitation, and they're going to dig into that for us and help us with search engine optimization. So those ads will go live May 1st. So we've been working on the back end, just getting all of the things set up through Meta and Google and YouTube. Right, the video is going to live on YouTube, but so we'll be able to track that as well. So everything's going to be trackable, and we'll have some good reporting on how this campaign performs. There's a grant report due today that I'm working on that is our quarterly report. So I will report that, and then the next report we have, since it's quarterly, we'll be able to provide data and numbers to the CTO for this grant. Reminder, it was a $75,000 grant, but we had 10% matching, so the total grant is $82,500. We're paying out $7,500. The grant was for $75,000.
Question before we go on, Pam.
Sure.
How's that labeled on YouTube?
It's under our page, which is
Okay.
Visit La Junta, and I can share that out with you. I think there's one more thing that I need to do, getting all of this verified. There's a lot of little pieces, but they set us up a Visit La Junta page,
Okay.
and I'll send out a link once that is all verified. But then in the landing page too, if you guys were able to take a look at that, the landing page has, and it's based on the script again that they used. So. Back here, ads. Okay, so that's the only update I have there. Do you guys have any other questions on that one? Okay. Next thing I was going to report on is on the Destination Development Mentor. As a reminder, I feel like it's helpful to go back and just remind, since we have all of these programs going on. This was a grant. I call it a grant, but it was not a money grant. This was 100 hours of consulting. And as a reminder, Amy Cassidy is our consultant. That our primary objective of the program is to develop a responsible and a respectful use campaign for the Tarantula Fest and fall tarantula tourism. So basically, it's like taking the leave no trace principles that are out there about, you know, picking up your poop and putting out wildfires and leaving the wildlife wild, but specifically for us so that we have the right language around tarantulas to speak to that. So we had our first meeting in, Colleen, help me, was that March? I think it was February. Yeah. And we convened a working group, and it was a curated working group. Colleen is our board member representative. We had the State Patrol, we had the Sheriff's Department, county commissioners, did I say state patrol? Yes. Private property owners, local police, all of them. If they weren't able to attend the meeting, we got feedback yesterday. We were able to connect with CDOT, had a wonderful conversation with both the regional, CDOT, Region 2, and then the other one he's based in Trinidad, so I think he's like the superintendent of that group. So they had a lot of great information to share, very much similar to what we've been hearing. Is they were very positive in saying that a lot of it is just people not realizing it and stopping on the road, and some of the incidents they've had were based on people just stopping, and made a really good point that when people are in rural, they don't realize how fast cars might be coming, even though it's such an expanse. And of course, we don't have the shoulders, and then it goes right into the ditch bank. So really talking about that safety is something that we're focusing on. So that's just a reminder. We have a meeting today, this afternoon, with just the working group to go over what Amy has come up with. She is going to present some of the themes that she's come up with based on those meetings, and they're going to be based around planning ahead for safe viewing, respecting private property. That's one of the things we heard, people crossing fences, and viewing with care, and then the idea of know before you go. For the meeting expedition, and some of the stuff we have on the website is about that there's hunters out there, so not having any hunter-viewer conflicts, and how we can prepare people for that. So I'm looking forward to this meeting. We did invite CDOT to this meeting as well, and I think they're going to attend. So once we have this meeting, then we'll be able to talk. I think she's going to present the themes to the working group. We'll talk through them. She has a matrix and messaging, and then we'll talk through that as well. And the goal will be that we have this key messaging of how to use it, and then put that on Facebook. All of the partners that we've talked to, State Patrol, CDOT, they have said they'd be willing to share this messaging on their Facebook pages and their social media, and we feel like that's going to be a good way to get this messaging out, in addition to our website and the other channels that we use. So the implementation and talking about how we're going to implement that will be the next phase of this as well.
With CDOT there, have you guys hit them up about putting any kind of permanent signs out there?
We had a conversation yesterday, and they talked about the VMS, variable messaging, or VSM, variable sign messages. And they are willing to put those out for us. The conversation we did have around that about specific pullouts, which is you never know where the tarantulas are going to be. And even he made a point that one day you can see 50 at the pullout where the State Patrol has to do some of the truck checks, but then the next day they might be farther or not. So
what about just putting some signs saying please pull off the road?
Yes, and so they're willing to. They did have. I think they said they have 4 of these variable. I think they're called VMS, variable messages. Anyway, the ones that are digital. And they did have those out last year for us, and they said, because Rick Klein called them, and it was before we really got to, and that's in my notes back there, but I think it said no stopping or standing in the highway. So we're going to work with them again to make sure these the movable signs are out, and we can help them with messaging. And then Mike is from the region here, and then we talked to Jeff who's from Trinidad, and he said he'd be willing to see if we can have more signs during that time in specific.
I thought maybe some kind of permanent sign, because don't get me wrong, they start way before the mating season, everything else, and there's people, just stopping in the road and watching one cross right there,
And I think just put, we tried those like political type signs.
I remember they got stolen.
Yeah, they were only there
that's why I
like a
thought
day.
maybe more of a permanent,
Yeah.
please pull off for
And
nature or scenery or something.
It's funny, Colleen, because they mentioned those signs on our call yesterday and said how cool they were, but they didn't last long.
They were too
So
cool.
they were. So John, I think to your point that conversation will come down the road where we will talk about permanent signage. I think I'm hopeful now that we are having this partnership and conversation with CDOT. You know, we did the counter last year that Otero County did, so maybe there's some ways that we can identify where we can put permanent signage, but I think this first step of having them as part of the conversation, and they're willing to help, they're very supportive.
At least they're there, that's good,
Yeah,
yeah.
and they, you know, they made it sound like, there's not tremendous amount of incidents, but we all agreed on the phone that the last thing we want is a fatality or
Yeah.
or a bad wreck that occurs
Yep.
because somebody, I mean, they did talk about an incident that was reported to them where there was a husband driving the car and the lady was getting out trying to direct people around the tarantula, to not hit the tarantula. So I think that's something that Amy heard, and we're gonna try to build into the messaging that while it's great you wanna protect the tarantulas, you've gotta, you know, be safe. So how we can, do that, you know, and then CDOT said too, that if they're out and about, they don't have any ability for enforcement. So they can stop and tell the people, hey, like, you don't stop here, pull over, but there's not an enforcement arm behind them to be able to do that. So I think the positive thing is that everybody's aware of this and we're having the conversation and we're talking about it beyond just the Tarantula Fest and in the entirety of the tarantula tourism season. So I think, I'm hopeful that some permanent signs will come in the future. You know, they mentioned 5 roads that they see at most: 71, 350, 109, 101, and what am I missing? 109, 101.
350, Highway 10.
10. And they said 101 is a big one too, and I needed confirmation because I couldn't find in my mind where that was, and they said
South
South
of
of
Los
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 Angeles.
Angeles,
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
so-
that's the one that goes
To
the
Pritchett.
back road to Pritchett, yeah.
Okay,
That's a tricky road.
It
even,
is.
and there's
It
not-
is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
twists and turns.
so, but by having them in the conversation, then 101 is now considered, because it's not
Right?
necessarily
Yeah.
part of Visit La Junta.
Because they can
So-
cut across there to get to Higby too.
Yeah.
101.
You go through.
It's a
in
dirt, but-
Yeah, it's.
But somebody that wants to travel that way,
If they wanted
they're
to,
coming
yeah.
that way, I bet.
Yeah. So that's the report on that. I'm excited to see what Amy shares with the group today, and just this is all based on the conversation, and then we'll report back. Reminder that this grant runs through, it's the fiscal year, so this one has to be wrapped up by June 30th. So we'll probably look to have after this meeting, I'm not sure what our call to action will be, but I think we're gonna look at maybe having another meeting after our tourism board meeting in May. Maybe that'll be final messaging and stuff, but we'll be certain to share with the board anything that comes out of the meeting today, if you guys want to give feedback on, and just talk about that as well. Any questions on that? Okay. Short-term rental compliance. So after I had the conversation at our meeting last month, I followed up with Granicus as a reminder. That's a consultant that we're looking to hire. And they had sent, the board approved looking at these 4 modules for a cost around $5,900. So I emailed them and said, we're gonna do this. It was approved at $5,900, and they emailed back and the price went up. And so I had a conversation with them about that. And basically it's around this tax collection piece. So I was having a conversation with them about the tax collection, which basically, you know, address identification and compliance monitoring are the first 2 things we need to do to be able to identify and then get them compliant. And then the rental activity monitoring is basically once we have them compliant, then we can monitor it. The missing piece was, okay, great, we have this information. How do we collect the tax on it? And they had added in this new piece that was different than what they originally proposed. Long story short, through this, it sounds like we can do the tax collection on our own via our website, and I had a conversation with the company that's updating the City of La Junta website, and what they would have been charging us for is basically to buy its open forms or jot forms or something, which is already going to be incorporated into the City of La Junta website. So I'm going to work with the company that's building our website for City of La Junta and Elisa to see what we can build so that we can digitize a collection for the short-term rental compliance. And basically that's where that price differential came, because they would have been building it for us and we would have had to pay for the subscription to, I think it was called Open Forms or something like that. So in the contract that I sent you, looks different because we took out that tax collection piece. Now with all of that said, if we decided that we want them to help us because what we think we were able to do with our website doesn't work, we can revisit that again and they can do that. The original one that they quoted us on, they said wasn't working well, and they just didn't feel comfortable passing that on to us because there's a lot of issues that they're having with it. So this will be what we're looking at. I will work with the company and Elisa that is doing our website to see if we can build a simple form. Granicus, I'm hoping, will send us an example form of what we should ask and what we need for collection, and then the short-term rentals can go on there and they can submit their payments via that way. So with that said, the cost that we're looking at will now be 3 modules at $4,260. But with, like I said, with the option if we need to add that tax collection, and maybe when we do down the road it will be cheaper, but everything's bundled, and they said if we do add it down the road it will still be a discount for bundling.
So how many Airbnbs and stuff do we have?
I thought we were saying 17 or
Yeah,
something. And that I did a little math, and
Yeah, what's
it, basically that 4,200 boils down to if one, it's paid for in 60 rentals. At $100 a night, we're going to collect 4 1/4. The lodging tax will collect 4 1/4. So
And we
So-
have no track
Yeah.
record to know what
No.
was ever rented out or nothing.
yeah.
So
in 60
based-
rentals, it's made the money that's
Get
been
back.
outlaid to bring it back and help the Airbnb people at the same time, and plus I'm sure on top of those rentals, and we hadn't even really asked this question, but if Airbnbs or VRBOs aren't charging lodging tax, they probably aren't charging the city sales tax.
Yeah, and that's what they call it's the wild, wild west.
Right. And if
there
this
was
causes that to happen,
Yeah,
that not only brings $4,000 just to replace this into the lodging tax, it brings $4,000 into the city coffers for sales tax.
yeah.
So I think it's a
So if you
great
remember
expenditure.
the original email, and I know there's been a lot of emails around this, when I originally had a call with the consultant, I asked them if they could do an ROI, or return on an investment, based on what they found. And the report, and I can resend it to you, but basically said based on the number of short-term rentals that were losing upwards between $10,000 and $11,000 of revenue yearly, then so that based on that $4,200. Now this is just going to be to get us set up. We won't have to do the address identification or the compliance monitoring once we get the system set up.
The way that reads it as an annual fee. though.
It would be if you wanted to do those same things every year.
time.
The thing that probably will be something, and we'll know, is the rental activity monitoring. Basically, that's the back end where then we have access to. They use these fake addresses. 123 Airbnb Lane. I can go click on that. I can see where it's at. I can see when they've booked. So it's all the back end, and that's going to be that rental activity monitoring. So for $900, we can have that conversation, and then it'll all be connected.
This is good.
Yeah.
If they're, I think they even showed, 123 Airbnb Lane, if they're what their highest rate was, when it fluctuates, what they would be proposed to be bringing in if they were full all the time, if what their occupancy looks like. So they really dug into this rental activity monitoring fee, or rental activity monitoring light, I guess they called it. So, you know, if you look at the address identification is the setup and configuration, the online training, setup and configuration for compliance monitoring, online training, and then the setup and configuration. So possibly, if it works, we can decide, okay, this rental activity monitoring will be beneficial and we just do that. Or we find that we didn't get as much as we collected and then we say, okay, and we move away from that and just, so it's a very challenging.
I was gonna say, what is out there to keep the Airbnbs in compliant? I mean, really, they're not paying city sales tax, the city can't go on them. I mean, there's no Airbnb officer to, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's kind of,
Standard type thing.
yeah.
And I don't, as we said, it's not gonna hurt the Airbnb people,
No,
because they're not,
they can just pass it on, but
they're passing it on.
you're right.
It's,
Well, and I did send,
they benefit from all the city services.
Yeah.
They ought to be happy, I'd hope.
I did send an email that I got. I don't know if you guys all got that. Sometimes I try not to send too many emails, but I sent an email on Thursday from TIAC, which is the tourism legislation thing that we're involved with. And there's two bills that they're bringing up in front of this. So, I mean, this is a bigger problem than just us. I mean, the legislation is looking at this. I haven't followed up on the HB 24-1299. That's the tax rate for short-term online rentals. The SB 24-033, it sounds like they postponed that indefinitely. So there's larger conversations happening about this. Anywhere from, you know, communities saying that you have to prove that you're going to be living in the houses. So it's a challenge for every community, and I think we're on the beginning edges where we're just not collecting, and some of these are having so many that they, yeah. But when I had a call with Granicus, they said it's a lot like the Wild Wild West, where there's just not a lot of regulations on these because everything's grown so fast, and so I think everybody's trying to figure out how to keep up. And as a reminder, Airbnb, when Elisa contacted them, they basically said we're too small for them to really care about helping to collect. You know, they're more interested in the bigger communities.
And
So-
it does make you wonder, like, if you're renting it per night or per weekend or even a week, or the ones that'll rent for 2 or 3 months at a time. I mean, what's the break-off point there? I mean, I'm sure it's different. Instead of having to be charged daily taxes if you're renting it for 3 to 6 months or whatever.
And I think our lodging tax would forgive that.
Right, and
After
After
30 days.
Right.
Yeah, if it's
So
more than 30 days.
Yeah, more
then
than, so we,
it doesn't apply.
and I think a lot of the, what Pat, I know we all, you look at those Airbnb, the ones that are renting out the whole house, that's one story. The ones that are living in their house and renting a room
Oh, right.
and that kind of stuff. And those are really more common than I thought they are.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
I don't know about here in Lahana, though, but I know when you look at cities that you want to go to, and then all of a sudden you find out you're sharing somebody's house and bathroom.
So I think this is just going to be really helpful because we don't know what we don't know right now.
Right.
And we've
Yeah,
had
it's
some
great.
great Airbnb people that are doing Airbnbs that have come to us and say, you know, we want to help. KOA wants to be collecting taxes, so I think we'll be a lot more educated about what's here, what's available, and how we work with them. So
I think we owe thanks to Brad, and like you said that before,
Yep.
for bringing it up, and the other Airbnb owners that don't want to
yeah,
try to work with this. So it's nothing but going to help. It's going to help the city through sales tax. It's going to help everybody. So good.
so then I don't know that we need, I mean, the way the motion kind of was last time, we said, I kind of worded it to say up to 4 modules. That was kind of an approximately $5,900, so I feel like the last motion still covers that. I did tell them if it was gonna be that higher price that I would need to come back and we would have the conversation, but since they came back and it's under, I went ahead and signed the contract to move it forward. Just otherwise their quotes only last for a short amount of time and then they could fluctuate, so.
Yeah, and
Yes,
it's a lot
but-
easier to do.
Do we have Airbnbs operating now?
Yes, but we don't know how many, and that's what this consultant's gonna help us find out.
Is there any sort of timetable, Pam?
Yeah, you know, I feel like they said it's relatively quickly, like 6 to 8 weeks to kind of get through the first 2 pieces of that, the address identification.
It's just
Um,
go on.
The one thing that they need from us is getting some information from the assessor's office, so however long that takes on our end will then inform that process. So I'm gonna follow up and just see if, because I can't remember if a timeline is included in this. I'll see if she can confirm the timeline since we took out that other module, and I'll share that with you. Okay, any questions on that?
No.
Okay.
John, Chair, I think we could just say consensus and
Yeah,
put in consensus to not remove. Good,
Okay.
because the person that seconded isn't here anyway, so that'll make it even harder.
Yes, Betty?
Wouldn't you have to have the people registered to be an Airbnb?
What, I guess I don't
With
understand your
somebody,
question.
with the company you're talking about or with the city?
Well, they're registered with Airbnb, but Airbnb doesn't provide that information. So this company is going to help us identify, it's not, I don't know if the word's public, but when you go and you look at an Airbnb, the only way you get the address is if you book it. There's not a way for us to find out who they are, so this company is gonna help us with that.
The company will do that?
Yes. And-
I've stayed in an Airbnb in Denver a couple of times.
Yes,
But I don't understand how the system works.
yeah, well, they do, fortunately they do, and they're gonna help us through it. Because it's a very complex system, especially from the ones trying to collect the tax. Okay, the last thing I was gonna update everyone on is the destination stewardship, which I did send that email before the meeting, just to give you guys, sent it. Yeah, no, it's okay. I just wanted to bring it up. So we've been talking about the destination stewardship strategic plan for a while. And I serve on the committee for this, and this is basically looking at doing a statewide plan all around stewardship. So the draft plan is out. It's open for public feedback until May 10th. The initiative seeks to create a sustainable future where tourism serves the needs of visitors, residents, and communities and the environment. In addition to the statewide plan, the CTO initiative will produce a glossary of terms in 8 regional plans this summer. I think that regional plans is what's really going to be important for us. I think the statewide plan is going to be important, but I think based on there's been 2 meetings regionally. Rick was at the last one that we had in March, and we had that in Los Animas, and a lot of what the state issues are going to be bigger issues like transportation and things that might not be what we're worried about, but from the regional aspect, I think the regional plan is going to be specifically the Canyons and Plains region, and I think that will be very beneficial to us. So if you would like to take a look at the statewide strategic plan, you can go on there, and feedback they're soliciting public feedback until May 10th. And then there will be...
Is that in the email?
Yes, that's in the email, and if you want to, there's a link to the page that gives all of this information, and then a link to the plan. There also was a webinar. They did 2 webinars. They've included the recording if you
Okay.
want to listen and go through that. And then I think they're going to get approval or public feedback for this plan, and then I think we're looking at probably June when the regional plans are. They've sent out so many dates, Rick, I can't remember, isn't it, when they said like June 15th that we would be looking at like the draft regional plan, which we will then share. But the vision statement for this is destination stewardship in Colorado is a success when communities thrive with tourism, where responsible visitation fuels economic vitality and enhances the quality of life. Success is achieved through a culture of respect, inclusivity, and collaborative governance with both the tourism industry and visitors acting as stewards of the state's natural beauty and cultural heritage. This collaboration will continue to foster innovation, environmental sustainability, and a legacy of stewardship, leaving the state of Colorado better for generations. So if you want to take a look at that and provide feedback, or if you have any further questions, I just wanted to keep you guys in the loop that this is happening. We had a small but mighty group in Los Animas, and I think there was some good dialogue around Colorado communities, historic culture and heritage, wildlife, parks. So there was some good conversation that I think will be beneficial for what we see in the regional strategic plan. So this one was more of just an FYI to keep you guys up to date and kind of to keep know that I'm keeping a pulse on what CTO is doing from a statewide level as well. So I think those are the main updates that I had that we're working on there.
And just to say, CTO's destination development group is gonna be kinda in transition now, because Andrew Grossman, who's run that for the last 4 years.
He came on during
is leaving.
COVID, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll be having someone else move into that position.
Do they know who that's gonna be yet? No.
Not that I've heard,
Yeah.
no.
So. And the destination development, to Rick's point, is a lot of what we've been doing with the Reimagine and the Restart and the Blueprint and the destination development mentorship. So there's a lot of great programs that come out of there. One other update I will give, because Rick and I, well, 2 I guess. So as part of the many grants that we got that were capacity building grants, the Restart, Reimagine, Canyons and Plains got one, Santa Fe Trail. If you remember, the photo co-ops came with that. And it wasn't money because it was paid through a federal grant. So we had our first photo co-op, Canyons and Plains did, the first week of April, and that was for the Santa Fe Trail destination stewardship grant we got. That included Trinidad, downtown Trinidad. They were in Trinidad for the first day, then they came and did Sierra Vista and Tempest. And Rick, did you meet up with them that day?
Yeah, Iron Spring.
Iron Spring.
Yeah, Iron Spring.
Try to get some of the ruts. Then they went, the following day they went to, I'm just getting on my project. That was Bosville and Benson
Newport.
Fort.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get photo assets from that. Those will be owned by CTO and Canyons and Plains and the Santa Fe Trail Historic Byway, which will, we partner with all the time. So we're excited to see what kind of assets come out of that. Canyons and Plains still has a co-op that's coming, that they will be getting in the fall. So we will be looking at getting a lot of photo assets, probably similar 3 days, that we'll be able to get additional photo assets. And then Visit La Junta's is gonna be in the fall around tarantula tourism. They just emailed the other day and asked if we wanted it to be around the fest. My answer to them was, based on what the messaging we're doing, I think it makes more sense for us to be focused more on the tarantula tourism piece of it. Because if we have, all we have is pictures of lots of people, then it kind of goes against some of the messaging. So we're looking at doing that in September. I think the Canyons and Plains one is also September. So we're gonna be able to get a lot of photo assets. We haven't seen any of the assets that came from the Santa Fe Trail, so I'm not quite sure what to expect, but it's just really good to have these photos on hand. Rick and I have a call this afternoon, and this is more our Canyons and Plains hat, but I still think it fits with Visit La Junta. The Scenic Byways Commission that oversees all 26 byways in the state received a grant, and it is for travel stories. And if you guys remember, we've talked a little bit about travel stories, but it's an app where it basically is like itineraries along the way. So we were one of the byways selected. I can't remember, I think they said maybe only 8 byways were selected. I can't remember. Anyway, Santa Fe Trails is one of the 8 byways selected. So we will be getting about a 20 to 30 minute travel story based on the Santa Fe Trail. It's grant funded, which is great. It's pretty, it's pretty, I don't know, limited in what they can do, because we have to pick 6 sites within 30 minutes.
Wow.
And all of the byways are saying there's nothing within 30 minutes. I mean, they're talking within like a 30-minute trip, these 6 sites.
30-minute.
Yeah, so Rick and I have tried to talk through this and figure out what's going to be the best 6 sites, because it's a challenge. We do have a call with them this afternoon, and it's going to be talking about the storytelling piece of it, so I'm sure it will come up from the byways about this is a really challenging thing to identify a 30-minute area. The tentative one we've talked about was from La Junta to Bence to Bobsville to, where did we say?
Los Animas, Fort Lyon.
I'm sorry, I can't understand what you're saying. Where are you going to?
Well, we don't know where they're going to be. There's going to be 6 sites on the Santa Fe Trail.
And you're thinking about?
Well, we'll just say 6 sites, and then I won't say it publicly, so we don't. If you have questions about those 6 sites, because we haven't identified them, but it has to be within the 30 minutes. So just
places within 30 minutes.
Yeah, so we've had conversations of should we try to do it along this route or this route or this route, and
That'd be tough.
it is really challenging. It is really challenging. So that, although that's not Visit La Junta managing this or doing it, we really don't have anything. I'm serving as the interim president of Canyons and Plains, and Santa Fe Trail is under that, so that's why I'm involved. And then they needed somebody, we need to identify one person to kind of lead the storytelling aspect of it, because, so then that's why Rick's involved, because he has the history and it needs to be told from the same, so when you're hearing it, you're not hearing that it's written from 6 different people. So we're gonna sit on this conference call this afternoon to learn about what
Is this what we're,
No, it's along the Santa Fe Trail.
the watering place south of town, where they stop for water?
That might be one of the
On
spots
350,
along
I
it.
think.
I mean, there's,
They're not sure where
all
they're gonna
kinds
put
of
it.
sites along the trail, and we have to limit it to
Yeah.
6 different
Yeah.
places. So we're talking about where those places would be.
And you're getting your information from US, stuff from the Park Service and things like that?
No, this isn't through the Park Service, Betty. This is just a grant that I'm letting them know about that
Local places from local people? No.
this is a project under Canyons and Plains, so it's not Visit La Junta doing it. It's just me notifying the board that we're going to be involved.
This isn't it's not our baby, it's
Not-
theirs.
Yeah,
Oh,
They're just,
yeah.
they're just
It's
informing
an
us,
informative
they're
way.
just telling us about it.
Canyons and Plains is,
I think it benefits
Yeah, I
us.
do too.
Yes, it does,
It
but
doesn't mean we're not interested, but we
Yeah.
aren't,
but it's not ours to
yeah,
report.
we don't have anything to say about it other than,
Yeah.
hey, we're glad that you're doing it.
So those are kind of the 2 main grants that are coming out of Canyons and Plains that I think we'll see residual positive effects from the travel stories and then the photos. So, any other questions? I know Rick and I get to hop on that call at 1 o'clock, so,
And our meeting's at 2.
yep. And it's, I'm set up here if you wanna be here or if you wanna call in Zoom.
Okay, so back in the.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I think that we're back on schedule, and our next meeting will be May 21st, if that works with everyone. I know the past 2 months we had to change because of scheduling conflicts, but we should be back to the 21st.
I'll be in Sequoia National Park that day.
Oh, well, that sounds fun. Does that work for
Alright.
everyone else, or do we need to change it?
I'm good.
Okay,
I think I'm good.
okay.
Do you want
I
to
got a
go
real
live?
life, I don't need to do that kind of stuff.
Okay, that's all I have.
Alright,
I have a couple quick things, just, so I don't know if we need to bring this up at this meeting or not, but at the last Tarantula Fest meeting, we talked about the street banner
Mhm.
going all the way across. A big street-wide banner for Tarantula Fest, but we talked about putting the QR code up there so that it would take us to the visit, to the La Junta, you know, be responsible, here's all the things to do and not do, kind of thing. And so we're wondering about, since it fits into the whole tarantula season, having the tourism, tourism pay for that,
I
banner.
I make the motion. I think those are the kinds of things we need, we need more of to do to welcome, I mean, the whole gamut. OJC parents and athletes and string it across like we used to. So I'm I don't know if we have a figure, but I would move that we approve the banner
Okay.
for Tarantula Fest and
$850 or
Tentatively,
something.
yeah, the
Price
price
about
for
$800.
about
$800.
so moved, John.
And, yeah, I don't know that, this one is where I get a little, it's good to have the motion, I don't know if we need a specific amount, because it fits more under marketing, and
Right.
the marketing budget was approved by city council, so we don't necessarily have to we don't have to approve,
motion.
yeah, so, but we can just
Okay.
more of,
All right,
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah, but it's good to have the motion.
I'm all in favor.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
The other
That's
thing
great.
that came up, and I'm not sure we're gonna be able to get it in this year, because of the timing and we need to do some research, was similar to that is the idea of the street pole banners that, you know, the chamber used to do, and maybe we,
Mhm.
the tourism board, can look at doing some of those that would go up, and then, you know, if we have visit.lahunta.net on that, and maybe it needs to be broader than just tarantulas, and it can be different things.
I think
so-
those are
Yeah.
tourist-friendly things that we need to make sure that we do.
Maybe like-
Even our street signage downtown is, as far as the streets on Third Street are, I think we now have the street signs back. For a long time, we didn't have street signs downtown, so people didn't know where they were. And anything that's tourist-friendly, I think we need to jump in and say, let's do it. And
And we talked about, and we kind of been talking a lot with the banner, we decided, general, right, that we would say, welcome. We were talking through it to see if we made it general enough that it doesn't have a date, so that there's not
Right.
a
We talked
Change
about
it every
having
year.
Yeah.
Tarantula Fest
tarantulas,
last
yeah,
weekend in September.
yeah.
so that it can be, but I don't know how long those things last, so the design, well,
We haven't
Depends on
designed it
weather.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To get, I'll get
Yeah.
to work on
Good.
it.
and then we probably need to test, the question was the QR code.
Being able to
Yeah.
scan it from that
Yeah,
far
like
away.
if it'll work, I mean, if it's big enough, you probably could, but I think we need to,
That's out of my
yeah,
expertise.
if not,
I think
at
we'll
a
be the
minimum, we
customer.
could just put
The website.
visitlands.net on there, and it would still be the same.
I did have one thing too. I went to the Southeast Colorado Power Association annual meeting just as a guest. And there was a gal there from Tri-County Utilities, whatever their name is. And she came from Alamosa, and she said, she mentioned to somebody she had to come to La Junta for this meeting. And they said, oh, that's where the Tarantula Fest is. So hey, you know, so we were talking. I mean, she said something about that, and I said, oh, and then Steve Kiefer and Sue were there. So I think Sue said, we need little signs that says, ask me about the Tarantula Fest. So I'm looking into that. I think we should have that if we go someplace, just put it on and people
Or
will
what
ask
if,
us.
you know what, they used to have the tourism ambassador sign, what if it says tarantula ambassador?
That'd be funny, yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Okay, Yeah, yeah, I think there's a lot of ways, I mean, Steve Kiefer brought, what was it? A gummy
Jelly
tarantula?
belly, a
Yeah,
jelly
gummy
belly.
Oh, really?
tarantula.
Yeah.
That, and it had like, a lot of facts on the actual packaging and, so just looking into fun ways
Oh,
to be
cool.
able to, build on that, yeah.
We also talked about a neat idea that Monte Vista has, that they have metal cranes
Yep,
for their
cranes.
Cranes Festival.
They change them every year.
Talked about having metal tarantulas that could be sponsored by local businesses on the flag, on
My
the
wife and I go
poles.
through there all the time, so we see them all
Yeah.
the time.
You know.
It's
And it
kinda
is,
cool.
it's-
It's
yeah.
kinda cool.
So you talked about digital ads
Mhm.
with the,
Yeah.
you would never guess.
Yeah.
Again, I think I bring this up all the time, but what about the possibility of television and or newspaper, print, the magazine ads, like AAA magazine or
Yeah.
something like that?
Yeah.
Popping an ad in there.
When VistaWorks quoted us on the price for a commercial, it was many thousands of dollars. So I think we need to have a serious conversation of what our return on investment would be for that, if you're gonna do the commercial right. But yeah, we can, look at doing the ad look at those with the ads. This grant was just for the digital piece of it, so, but we can see about extending that with VistaWorks, and if there's a way that we can extend this campaign with them via print, and then we would just pay for it, in addition to just not in the grant, but I can have that conversation with them, since we already have the content
Right.
for it,
Yeah.
yeah. Yep, I'll email them this afternoon about it.
Cool. Anybody else have anything? All right, I will adjourn the meeting, and thanks for everybody coming.
So we are signed up with a tourism company.
Thanks, John.
No, thank you.
To help
Sorry,
us
Rod
do
yesterday,
this.
haven't
That's what she
seen her in a long
said,
time.
To do what, Betty?
Yeah.
Well, guys, let me
I
go
said
turn
no.
off the
I'm
live real
sorry.
quick. I gotta turn off
I
our
asked her if she
Facebook.
missed work, she said,
Okay.
she didn't miss work, but she missed the people.
People, yeah.
I told that was me too.
She was kind of glad to go down there and get see
Is
some of their
there a
clients
company
and stuff.
that's going to manage this? Is that what we were
She
talking
was
about?
there at